Hello, and welcome to today's webinar, Getting Started Workshop for Beginners. Today's presentation will be and sent out to all registered participants and also will be posted on the Hub. As this is a workshop, we welcome your participation and interaction. We will have a Q&A portion throughout the presentation. You can type your questions into the question box on the webinar doc, or you are welcome to raise your hand to ask a question verbally. We're excited to share this time with you today. Now on to Liesl with Textile Exchange. Liesl?
Good morning, America. I can't tell you how excited I've been to be able to say that. It's afternoon here over in the UK, but a very warm welcome to you this morning. We're very excited to be presenting our Getting Started Corporate Benchmarking Program for Beginners. And I'm joined with Prina Pandey and Madeline Hearn from my team. And we will be taking you through the next hour and a half with our Getting Started contents, which you can see here on the content page. But first, I'll be handing it over to Rhea Pepper, our special guest, our CEO, who'll be giving you a warm welcome. And then we'll come back to the team where we'll take you through the context of the benchmarking program, and then we'll go for a deeper dive into the survey, a little bit of guidance and support on where to go next, and then some benefits of taking part in the program. And we've got a Q&A section at the end. And we also encourage questions throughout the entire workshop. It is a workshop, it's not a webinar. So feel free to raise your hand or put a question into the Q&A, and we'll take some time throughout the hour and a half to take a look and have a bit of a discussion in response to some of your questions. So for now, let me hand you over to Rhea Pepper. You're on mute, I think, Rhea.
Oh, have to do the double click correctly. I clicked too quickly. Great to be here with everyone. Very excited. And I am missing the PowerPoint. I guess I'm in the wrong view. Anyway, it's good to be here. And there it is. Here we go. So I just wanted to remind everyone, it's good to have, we've got a few folks in. It's so nice. Liesl, you and your team have done such a good job of having these different time zones for our groups. It gives a lot tighter, cozier group of folks so that we can have some Q&A and conversations. So this is really good. The benchmark program is such a critical step in having a strategy and delivering on a strategy for preferred fibers and materials. You know, it's like, if you don't know where you are, you're not going to get where you want to go. It's a journey that has to require planning. And so having the knowledge of where you are, what's going on, having that opportunity to do a gap analysis of where you have strengths, where you need to do, because so many companies are still kind of doing ad hoc programs. They've got a great program here on maybe GRS. They've got a great program here on some cotton or a wool program or whatever the case may be, but having a holistic strategy is so important. We've got some important targets to hit by 2030 for our Climate Plus strategy. So really taking the time, we know this is an investment to participate in the Corporate Fiber Benchmark Program. But again, it's not by default, but design that we will get there. And so taking the time, knowing where you are, our members, we want to see 100% of our members participating in this. And it's going to take our members as the tip of the spear, the ones driving change, driving transformation, to really be there to deliver by 2030. So today, we need to know where we are. If you've got, 70% still to go, then let's see what, 10% increase year on year looks like. We're working with the maturation model as well, making sure we have tools and resources to equip and inspire you. Those are the verbs in our mission statement. And so we're here. The team is doing a great job in order to deliver this, to be here for you as you embark upon this journey. So again, thanks for participating here and look forward to the conversation. Thanks, Liesl.
Thanks so much, Rhea. It's wonderful to have you getting us that inspirational message as we head into this next hour and a half. Really, really appreciate your voice. I'm sure everybody does. Thank you. Right. Now, as I said, we'll have a bit of a grounding into the CFMB program, the 101 on where we've got to with benchmarking so far. And the first thing to announce, which I was excited to say, is that we have launched our Material Change Insights 2021 report at the beginning of the week. So if you missed that announcement, here's another one. It's full of so much data and information. We do everything we can to give justice to the amount of incredible material and data and insights that you as companies that are taking part in the benchmark share with us. There's many ways, and we'll talk more about the various ways that we highlight and promote and share and slice and dice the data. And the insights report is the cherry on the top. It's the one with our deeper analysis. So there was a webinar attached to the launch of this report, which will be live and available on our hub, which we'll talk about as well a little bit more later. And there you'll be able to continue, or we will be continuing the conversation. There was lots of incredible thought-provoking conversation that we only touched the surface on in the hour that we had together. So our mission is to continue this conversation. As Rhea said, it's urgent now. We're counting the years to 2030. We've got a lot of ambition, and we want to see that converted into action. And one of the ways that we support you is through being able to measure and give you a yardstick on how you're doing, how we're doing as an industry, so we can disclose this and show transparency and the things that everybody's looking for from us as individual companies, as organizations, and also as a sector. And for me, the joy of seeing more and more companies like you join us on this mission is that we can stand up and be counted, so to speak. So once again, thanks for joining us today. Now, you probably heard a lot of acronyms from us, and indeed there are a lot of acronyms. So I'm going to try and put some of those into perspective. We do talk about the CFMB, so that's the Corporate Fiber and Materials Benchmark Program. And this is, if you like, the overarching strategic delivery of a number of tools and programs and projects within that overarching remit. The big, if you like, public facing tool is our Material Change Index. And here's where you find the leaderboard, the name and fame. It's one of many, but it's one of the big strategic pieces. So we talk about the CFMB, the Corporate Fiber Materials Benchmark, and then we talk about this specific product, the Material Change Index, which we're proud to say is voluntary. No one's forced to do this particular work with us, and it's that peer-to-peer comparison that helps not only drive this race to the top, which we do know is inevitably important for companies to get that spark and energy to do better, but also that collaborative space that we see the industry needing to play in. So whilst individual action is brilliant, it's really that machine or that system of feeding into the greater good, and so we can all get there together. And then, as Rhea said as well, this 2030 goal, we have a Climate Plus strategy with a 2030 goal in mind. We're aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals and see this as very integral in a holistic way of a North Star pointing us in the right direction. And we know increasingly every year that we've got to move from this linear approach to raw materials and our industry in general, and consider how to contribute to this circular economy. So we see circular textiles as a very much part of a materials strategy, and the index reflects that. And if we want to think about just how far we've come, which is super, super exciting, and this graph here that you can see shows that we started our pilot in 2015. We had 57 progressive companies step up and say, hey, we're using more preferred materials. We think we know this is a good thing. We want to do more of it. But we also want to be able to track our progress, make sure the industry's coming along. We also want to see where our gaps are. So this is where we started to think, okay, how can we not just drive that year-on-year increase in the use of preferred fibers and materials, but really build that context and the sourcing strategies and the targets and the relationships with suppliers and all the how-to and the how of benchmarking and strategically managing raw materials, not just the pure uptake, which of course is important too. So it's very much a double-end coin. So that was the pilot in 2015. We've had 3 years of improving the program, producing report cards, driving the stakeholder engagement, all behind the scenes. And then, as I was saying, with the Material Change Index, the public-facing result came out in 2019. And then we wondered how that would go, how companies would feel about, albeit a name and fame in the public domain, how that would drive companies' interest in the benchmark. And as you can see from the last 3 years, that's increased every year, with last year in 2021 being a significant increase. And you'll see that lovely green bar in there as well for our biodiversity beta, which immediately took off and hit the spot for a lot of companies. We had a 157 step up in that first year. And then you can see from 2020 to 21, the lighter blue increase in suppliers and manufacturers from the first pilot in 2020 to 30 in 2021. Now, we know this is going to grow as well. And as a team, as an organization, we're gearing up to support more and more suppliers entering the program, showing their leadership, because we think we all need to be leaders in this space. And of course, a lot of the hard work is getting done by the suppliers and manufacturers. And of course, setting a strategy, setting targets for preferred materials. Any company, no matter where you are in that supply network, can have those same ambitions and goals and convert those to action. So we see this as a very participatory program. But yes, up to now, being fairly focused on getting it right with the brands and retailers. And here's our class of 2021. As I said, we are about naming and faming. We know we've got a lot of work to do. We know we've got a long way to go, but we also know how hard everybody is working. And I know without any doubt that everybody on this call is feeling the pressure, feeling the importance of what we have to do and how important it is. And we know benchmarking is not the whole game here. In fact, it's a relatively small part of what we're all having to do to get the job done. But we do see this as an indicator, a barometer, a way to track progress and reward the progress that we made. And if we're not making enough progress, then we can look at, what's sticking, what's not working. And as many of you know, Textile Exchange has a number of roundtables, and Rhea mentioned the maturation model and various ways that we are supporting you every step of the way. So a huge thank you to this class of 2021 and for all the companies considering taking part and stepping up and joining us on this journey. I hope we'll see your company name on here in the class of 2022. Now, I don't think you need much convincing about the benefits of benchmarking. We talk about this a lot, and but I also think it's just worth a quick reminder. We're not doing this in a bubble, in isolation, in a darkened room with our own sort of theories on the importance of this. It's a fairly established tool around the world in different sectors, in different methodologies. But generally, these are the 5 key benefits that the World Benchmarking Alliance, of which Textile Exchange is a member, have put forward as the various ways benchmarking helps. And I think the first one is really, really key, because society's expectations change all the time. How do we keep up with that? How do we tap into where we need to go next? How do we show society that we're doing what we can and we're being transparent about it and we're engaging on these important topics and that we're continuously working to improve? So I think society's expectations is really key, and part of our program is very much about stakeholder engagement and working with experts and civil society as well as experts within our business sector. Knowing what we need to be measuring, I think, inevitably it's going to look a little different for every company, and that's totally fine. In fact, it's a core part of our benchmark to be able to flex and sort of fit and suit different sized companies, different material users. There definitely cannot be one rigid right or wrong, black or white. And I think that goes with every message that Textile Exchange brings to the table. It's a journey, it's often about the destination, and that will continuously evolve and refine and get better. So that's baked into how we benchmark. I mentioned this race to the top at the start. Inevitably, a spark of competition may help. You may take the leaderboard to your CEO, and the CEO might say to you, for example, because this is a very real example, why aren't we on this board? Why are we a 1 and not a 4? All these sorts of responses that really give fuel to our fire as practitioners, as for you in the either whether you're in the sustainability team or driving this program from another position, being able to say, look, we need to get better at this because we want to be improving, and this will help us gauge that. So that helps. And I think one of the other most important outcomes of this race to the top is we get to see what good looks like, what amazing looks like, what innovation looks like, what creativity looks like. And one of our core functions at Textile Exchange is to be able to bring that out to others. We're very careful and confidential with people's data, but one of the spirits of benchmarking is that we can sort of share and improve together through what we find through the program. And the Insights report is one of the key ways that we do that. And then number 5 kind of wraps up what I've just been saying, just how benchmarking works as an engagement tool. We couldn't be up here today talking with you and with the 200 or 300 or 400 companies about where we need to go, where the gaps are, what we need to do next, what good looks like, if we didn't have all of your companies engaged, involved, supporting us on our journey to support you. So it's very much around that iterative learning and an opportunity to do this together. So I wanted to share this particular slide with you. That it's a lot of logos here. Some may look familiar, others may not. And my message behind this is there's a lot of organizations that are increasingly working to figure out where their swim lanes are. So where we're bringing in unique support and expertise and service to the industry, and where we need to align and where we might need to harmonize and where we might need to converge, so that we're not fragmented, we're not burdening you as companies with requests for information, and how do we improve in that service offering through more collaboration, more recognition of what those shared indicators are that we all want to be able to track. So that's happening within our industry, but also much more broadly around the reporting and disclosure industry and sector. And for those that are following some of these disclosure directives, whether it's the EU or the ISSB and the Value Reporting Foundation, SASB, GRI, you will have noticed that there's a lot of movement right now in how we converge, form networks, agree where the similarities are and where we offer a unique value. So this is really just to say we are very much aware of this agenda and feel very passionate about being part of that improvement process and talking with everybody on this particular slide in one way or another. And speaking of convergence and making life easier for you and getting aligned, if we sort of narrow in a little bit to where we are today for our benchmarking platform and the different service offerings we have established now, you can see that we've built our sustainable cotton challenge and our recycled polyester challenge into our benchmarking program. So this requires annual reporting each year to show that as a signatory, you're stepping up and making progress towards meeting the challenges that you've signed up to. So that's baked into the benchmarking program. And a very exciting, very new add-on is how we're taking this model to partner with the Fashion Pact, who also have signatories and have set commitments and are wanting to measure progress. So we've come together and said, hey, this is great. You know, we've got a shared vision in many ways. Textile Exchange has the expertise and the experience of driving a benchmarking and reporting program. You know, how can we make life easier for the companies that are committing to meet some of these amazing, ambitious goals? So we'll talk a little bit more about how that's working this year, but just to say at this point that it's just such an amazing feeling of partnership and trust that we're getting, moving along that journey and starting with the Fashion Pact. Another really important and an exciting sort of evolution, if you like, in our thinking and our stretching around benchmarking and the way we see materials is this image that you see on the screen now. So on the left-hand side, the portfolio approach is still absolutely key. As I was saying, it's not going to be one size fits all. Different companies will be using and prioritizing different materials for different reasons, and that's very much tailored to the company. And then the preferred choices, and you can see this is not a definitive list. These are the ones that we're working with at the moment and are very clearly outlined in our benchmark. But there are choices, there are options, and we know from the 7 years that we've been working with many of you, or the participants, that it's not static, that there's an evolution happening within supply networks, within company strategies, within the available technology around recycled materials or what have you, that is influencing and potentially impacting the portfolio balance that the companies are having. But one of our key ambitions is that companies do see these as a portfolio approach and not sort of cherry picking of one material or another, but to consider everything together and then prioritize within that portfolio. And of course, this gives us the opportunity to model outcomes and impacts associated with those preferred materials. This is work in progress as well. And we work closely with the Sustainable Apparel Coalition and the Higg Index on greenhouse gas emissions, energy and water. It's global averages at the moment, but one of the key things that I'm really passionate about with benchmarking is that, and I mentioned this a few times already, but is this performance improvement cycle, best available data, best available methodology, and it's always improving. And the improving conversation is now evolving into what you see on the right-hand side of the screen, this landscape approach, our Climate Plus agenda, where we need to start connecting up the materials that we're using and the preferred options with where we're sourcing around the globe. And then that gives us more insight into what our risks are, and more importantly, what our opportunities are. So some countries will have a greater need for support on water security or forestry or other ecosystem impacts, socioeconomic impacts. It just helps us see what those opportunities are, what our risk is, and plan accordingly. And of course, going back to that conversation earlier about a changing landscape of regulations and expectations from policymakers and governments, transparency, being able to track supply chains, knowing where you're sourcing, all of that is coming around the corner as well. And we're in a position as a community to start working on this now and sort of learning from each other. And we're really driving that through the benchmarking program as well. So we're excited about that. We know it's another layer of on this journey, another step along this path. So speaking of the journey and the path and changes and shifts, our benchmarking framework has started to evolve a little bit. This is a bit different from how it's looked over the last 3 years. I want to reassure you that our material change index remains pretty much as it always has. And you can see the kind of grey blue bits where it says materials and circularity. Those questions are pretty much the same as they have been for a while. At the moment, they make up the MCI results as they always have. The methodology remains the same, and of course, for new companies, that might not mean so much to you. I wanted to say that there's this mix of evolution and change, but also continuity. It's always that balance with benchmarking. But the new bits will line up, as you probably have, some of you will have recognized, with the Fashion Pact. So you can see biodiversity there in green, with a special module for companies that are jewelry or use a lot of gold. So we have a special gold module for you there too. Climate and oceans. And this is a build on what the Fashion Pact and Textile Exchange, particularly around biodiversity, has been doing over the last year or so. So we've integrated this into the framework to show that shift out towards more of an impact area approach, as well as that business integration strategy piece, and of course this a really important materials portfolio piece in the middle, which allows us to do so much impact monitoring. And I know we'll talk with Prina a little bit more soon about how to approach the survey to customize it to your needs. None of the green and none of the biodiversity, climate or oceans is mandatory. In fact, none of it's mandatory. It's all very much a very flexible program. And I know Prina's got a lot more to say about that. This just shows the click down. So you'll be able to see what I was just saying before around some of the areas underneath the top line sections and elements, as you can see that from this slide, the familiar topics that we capture through the framework. And yeah, just to really re-emphasize that it's designed for you and wherever you are in that journey. So as I mentioned earlier, if you've signed up to one or both of the challenges, you don't have to do anything else. You don't have to benchmark your whole program in the first round. You can come in through the door of the cotton challenge or the polyester challenge, and that's an amazing start. So just to emphasize that there's different options. Right, I think that's where I turn it over to you now, Prina, to take us through the survey overview.
Thank you, Liesl, for that very clear overview of the corporate benchmark program and the growing importance of benchmarking. Hello, everyone. I will now take you through Material Change Index survey overview and getting started. So here we'll go through some technical elements, but we'll try to keep it as simple and informative for you. To begin with, in the next slide, here's the annual benchmark cycle, or the 2022 timeline. As many of you already know, we have just launched the 2022 survey. So the current survey submission period is open from Tuesday, June 21st, that's last Tuesday, to Friday, September 2nd. So all participating companies get about 12 weeks to complete the survey. During this time, companies start filling out the survey and avail our support services such as these getting started workshops or the drop-in clinics that we run throughout summer, which ensures benchmark practitioners are fully supported throughout the submission phase. Once the submission closes in September and all participating companies have submitted their survey, the corporate benchmark team undergoes the validation process, which is the second step on the right side of your screen. And this validation process goes on for each and every survey submitted for checking for consistency, accuracy, evidence, etc. Please note that it is not an audit, but a review of the information and data that companies submit. Then we enter the analysis phase to prepare for the results in January and February. And in March, as you see, we hit the reporting phase to generate confidential scorecards for each participating company and a rigorous analysis of aggregated data for industry insights, such as the MCI leaderboard, the impacts dashboard, the annual insights report that Liesl just took us through. And we will cover a little bit more later today on these different products. Now, in the next slide, I want to familiarize you with the benchmarking platform and walk you through the look and the feel of the survey itself. So since this session is dedicated to beginners or new participants, I assume most of you are new to our platform. So welcome to the CFMB portal. This platform is called ProBench and is managed in partnership with our developers, 73-bit. 73-bit creates platforms for many other impactful benchmarking programs, including the United Nations Principles for Responsible Investment, Access to Nutrition Index, and Business and Community, etc. This platform also houses the Corporate Benchmarks Material Change Index. It is important to mention that the platform is fully secure and we provide access only to benchmark practitioners. And in common day-to-day lives, it is called CFMB portal, or which stands for Corporate Fiber Materials Benchmark. And this houses our benchmark survey. In the next slide, if you're a company interested to benchmark or have sort of been introduced to the benchmark either through one of the fiber challenges that we spoke about earlier in the session, we hope you are here to get started with us. And the first step is to register to the CFMB portal by clicking the register as a new participant as indicated on your screen, which directs you to a short registration form seeking your company and contact details, survey category, etc. Once we receive your registration, we activate your access within 48 hours. If your company has been benchmarking with us already, or if you are a new practitioner for an already existing company benchmarking with us, or if you have forgotten any password, we have all those different combinations to help you secure a password to the portal. And I also wanted to mention that we grant about 3 to 4 users access for each company. So let us know in case you need additional access, and you can reach out for support to us via email. In the next slide, I'll take you through how you land into the CFMB portal. So once you log in, the landing page will look somewhat like this. There is a generic announcement section on the top. And to find the current year survey, you have to scroll down to the surveys and scorecard section as indicated on the right side of your screen. Under the new tab, you will want to click to the relevant 2022 survey. For example, here, brand retailer MCI survey 2022, that's indicated in orange. If you have not yet started your current year's survey, it will be under the new tab. But once you begin writing your survey down, it will move to the open tab, indicating that the survey is open for submission. In the next slide. Now, before diving deeper into the survey itself and how it looks, once you have opened it, I wanted to share a little bit about the different benchmark options available. Are there different ways to complete the survey? And the answer is absolutely yes. There are 3 survey options to choose from, depending upon many different factors, such as information or data available, your level of experience, the available resource in that particular year, or participants' willingness, etc., to submit through the survey, and so on. So one of the first options is the full MCI. And for a holistic overview of your efforts, to receive a complete scorecard and to qualify for the overall MCI index, companies should complete a particular number of sections if they want to take this option. And those sections are business integration module, circularity and materials portfolio, as Liesl sort of took us through at the beginning of this presentation. And in case you have any questions related to that, we're happy to answer that in the Q&A section. But just simply to get to my point that there are different ways of participating. And one of the other option is modular for companies that do not feel ready to take on the entire survey, or for those that prefer to focus on a limited modules or materials. This option is open for you, and participants are required to complete one or more of the business integration module. That is, you can do strategy or circularity, or you can do both, and also have the flexibility to select which materials portfolio modules that you want to complete. And we'll take you through that in a couple minutes. The third option is Progress Tracker, which allows participants to submit material uptake and volumetric data. This option allows for progress tracking against targets and specially accommodates companies signed up for various challenges such as the Sustainable Cotton Challenge or the Recycled Polyester Challenge. Now, I know that is a lot of information, but choosing which combination you want to go with in a particular year is not as difficult as it sounds. And we'll see that in a minute. In the next slide. Now, here is a glimpse of how a new 2022 survey will look like when you open it. I know it looks simple and super short, and this is only because the survey is built to pick your selections and open up the relevant modules that you want to complete in a particular year. This is basically driven by your selection of benchmark options that we went through and materials portfolio that we will see in a minute that your company chooses to complete. So it is customizable and flexible, as Liesl mentioned before. In the next slide, I just want to quickly take you through the mandatory section, which is quite important, and it's mandatory as it sounds for all participating companies. And this is because those three subsections there will really help the participants to sort of understand the terms and policies and ensure everything is clear, choose their benchmark options that they want to continue with, and also fill in some necessary company profile information. In the next slide, I want to take you through how your selection of the benchmark options will determine how your survey will look like or will open up the relevant modules for you. So as you see on your screen, you can choose from the three survey options: the full MCI or the Material Change Index full survey, the modular, where you have the flexibility to choose specific modules that imply better to you or you want to complete, or the materials tracker. We are also looking at some of the impact modules that Liesl spoke about earlier in this session: biodiversity, climate, ocean, and the goal module, which is optional. And there is also a selection for both the fiber challenges that we're running. We have seen through different permutations and combinations, and I'll take you through a demonstration of how of one particular scenario, and then we'll take you through how the survey opens up. For example, I take the combination here on your screen. That's the MCI full survey. I also want to complete biodiversity, and I'm a signatory of the 2025 Sustainable Cotton Challenge. In this example, I'm choosing the MCI full survey for a comprehensive overview and to receive a complete scorecard. The biodiversity questions are to track where my company, because I want to see where my company is at in terms of our impact on biodiversity and where we want to go with what indicators and measurements are available. And I'm a signatory to the Sustainable Cotton Challenge, hence we'll go through this demonstration. In the next slide, now you can see how the relevant sections have opened up. For a full MCI, as we spoke, business integration, materials module, and circularity, these are compulsory for if you want to qualify for the full MCI, and there are impact modules to choose from. And the materials balance sheet is something that all participants, irrespective of their survey option, need to complete, because this is an overview of your uptake of materials. And we recommend you select as many materials as possible that are available in your portfolio to complete the materials balance sheet. And in the next slide, here is a glimpse of the materials balance sheet, where companies will start by choosing which materials you use in your company. And depending on those selections, for example, if you're a cotton t-shirt company, you select only cotton. But if you're a multi-brand retailer, using various fibers and materials, you select as many as you can that are relevant to you, and it will drive the next set of sections that will open up for your survey. So as we went through, the first set of sections are determined by the benchmark options that you choose, and the second one is the materials that you sort of source or choose to complete. I will not get into the bits and pieces of the materials balance sheet because it is a session in itself, and we will be running that through our weekly drop-in sessions throughout July and September. But in the next slide, as we continue, once we have completed your volumetric data in the materials balance sheet, there are these other sections to complete. Now, reminding you of the scenario that we chose, if we are going with an MCI full survey, we have completed our business integration, we've completed our materials balance sheet, and these are rest of the sections to complete. Materials modules, as we mentioned, you're free to choose as many as you can. We recommend for an holistic overview, you choose at least all your priority materials. And then the circularity module is also compulsory for a full MCI. Although if you had taken the modular option, you could choose which of these different sections you want to complete or want to leave behind. And then the impact modules, the materials impact modules is compulsory for full MCI in order to get a complete score, but other modules such as biodiversity, climate, and oceans, as Liesl mentioned before, are optional. But we do invite participants to complete these as many as possible. The last is the submission section, but not the least, we request a sign-off form from a senior team member to ensure completion, robustness, and credibility of the program and the information that, credibility of the information that you have submitted through the survey. And that gets us to the end of the demonstration. I hope that was clear. Once again, I want to emphasize that the survey is built for flexibility, for your comfort. And as Liesl mentioned earlier in the presentation, you can be anywhere at the journey. You can either want to do the full survey or start with a progress tracker. We are here to support you throughout the benchmark journey. So with that, I think I will have to pass it over to my colleague, Madeline, who will take you through guidance and support available. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thanks, Prina, for giving us such a grand tour of ProBench and the survey. So like I said, I'm going to walk you through a few different ways that we provide guidance and support for all our participants and through some of our live support services. Next slide. So here, as you can see, this is the ProBench. Your survey is open and you're looking at one of the questions that you have selected to answer. At the top in that green bar in guidance, that is a collapsible box. And you can open that and find further information on, why this is important, what this question is looking for, and potentially any additional links that might help you understand better. And if you look to the right, you're going to see a green circle with a question mark. And there you can hover over that, and that's going to basically, what is that question addressing, and particularly what is the important reasons the company, it might help the company to answer and kind of build their strategy and see where they're at. And then if you look within that question, there's some underlined words, so like overall accountability and strategy, you can actually hover over them and a definition box will pop up. And so this is throughout the entire survey. So any words that are underlined, just hover if you're confused. And it'll give a very nice in-depth definition about that. And next slide. And then here we have put together a good suite of guides. So everything from your methodology to tools, to a calculation guide, to a general overall survey guide. We really kind of put this all together to help you. And you can find these guides in 3 different places. This can be found, again, in the ProBench, your portal homepage that Prina showed you. It's going to be on the right side in a resource library. And then you can also find it on the hub page for companies creating material change. And within that library, we have also a suite of guides, and then also on our Textile Exchange website. So hopefully you can navigate any of those options and find many of them matched. Like I said, the survey guide, you can really helps you walk through the survey guide and gives you a good understanding on how to navigate everything. And the next slide. And then the additional services. So you can join if you haven't already, join our company's creating material change in our hub community. And that's really a great place to hear any announcements, upcoming events. We really want to build it into like a very open discussion. Just share your experiences, your questions, any troubleshooting you're having. And, if you have a question, then that most likely means someone else has a question. And so it's a really great way to help out the community, and we'll be there to answer any of the questions, really opening up that door in the different discussions along with the survey. And then, as Prina mentioned also, we will be hosting drop-in clinics throughout July and August. And this is really a great place for you to bring any of your inquiries, learn from the peers, past participants, new ones, and then just simply connect with our team. Ask us any questions. We're really here to help and support you guys along this journey. And so now I will pass it back over to Liesl to talk about the benefits.
Thanks, Madeline. Thanks, Prina. I'm sure everybody feels like they're drinking from a fire hose right now. A lot of information coming your way. And I hope you've really got the message that we are here to help. I think we've said that plenty of times. We really, really mean it. And partly for selfish reasons, it really helps us to know and get a sense check on where the sticky bits are, what we can improve. And so it's very much a two-way street, and we would really love to hear from you. And speaking of hearing from you, the Q&A box looks very lonely and quiet. I don't know if anybody wants to be the brave first person to ask a question. As Madeline said, if somebody's got a question, they'll probably represent everybody else's interest in that as well. So if there's any brave souls out there or any comments, I don't know if how many of you have brand new to this or just sort of refreshing a little bit. So, as I speak, something popped up. Thank you, Tara. I might just pause here and look at your question, and then we'll get stuck into the benefits. So Tara's asking for the materials tracker, what type of verification supporting documentation is needed? Thanks, Tara. That is an amazing question, because we know that what we call the MBS, sorry, there's another acronym that we're throwing at you. It's our materials balance sheet. And this is, if you can imagine, an accounting sheet. Our vision for this is that we're able to get all your numbers nicely organized by metric tons of recycled polyester, conventional cotton, viscose, lyocell. There's a place for every different material type and the conventional and preferred options. Now, you've asked about verification. Once again, we've said this a lot, but I'm going to say it again. There is definitely a flexibility here. We know different companies are at different stages, and we're so proud, and this is probably one of my favorite things, is that over the course of the years that companies are reporting with us, they have really improved their systems internally for collecting that data. Verification of that data is definitely something that is really looming from an external auditor's perspective. We know more companies are stepping forward to get their volumetric calculations reviewed and audited either by internal audit teams, if you're lucky enough to have one, or through external partners and expert consultants that can do this sort of stuff. We do offer some of that service. We've created some guides that Madeline's been speaking about. We will set up those drop-in clinics, but we really know, just to sort of re-emphasize that bit about the journey again, some companies are opening up their first Excel spreadsheet to start quantifying the number of units and the average weights and the conversion factors and loss weights between different stages of the process. And we do provide all that information, and others are literally clicking a button and they've got that all in their PLM system or other sort of technical platform that they've managed to build out to that highest level of sophistication, or more likely you're somewhere in the middle there. So this is probably one of the biggest journeys that we know companies go on if they haven't started quantifying the volumes of materials. And yeah, just to answer your question, we do have what we call a metadata form that's embedded in ProBench. And what that does, it's kind of like a quality stamp where you will go through it and say where this data is housed within your company. Is it an Excel form? Is it in your PLM? We ask who's overseeing the data and their role, your level of accuracy, the level of verification, the use of certification, sort of a checklist on what would help build a robust submission of volumetric data. But it is a complicated area, and we will, as I said, we'll be setting up that specialist drop-in clinic to go really deep into that. We do ask you, just one other point, we do ask you to upload your calculations or your methodology so we can run our eye over that. And we don't audit data, not yet. That's a huge undertaking and a big responsibility. So we, as Prina said, we don't actually audit this data, but we do everything in our power to support you in providing accurate volumetric data, and know that that's work in progress, particularly for some materials. So I will add that where you're really only estimating these volumes and maybe even using really blunt percentages, we actually still encourage you to do that, because it's a start of the journey. It's scratching the surface, and that will encourage, more focus, more growth in that space. And it gives you a rudimentary, but it gives you some data that you can actually work with. And then there is the luxury of being able to go back each year. So when you start your next year's survey, you'll be able to refine and adjust previous year's data if you've got improved methodologies and refined figures, more accurate figures. Now that won't, adjust previous scorecards or results, but what it will do as you go forward, it'll give you a more accurate trend line, and that's in your scorecard. And this is really nice, because you can then show your C-suite or your shareholders or stakeholders, whoever you want to sort of share this with, that improvement. It was a very long answer, but I think it's a really important question. I'm sure I haven't even quite answered it to your full needs, Tara, but keep the questions coming. And I think there's another one now. Great, Tara. I'm glad that was helpful. I'm sure there'll be more discussions about this to come. Totally prepared for that, but thank you. Right, this is a bit where we say, we know this is a lot to ask of you, and this is where we talk about what you get back. What's the goodie box that you will receive for all this hard work? And the first thing you'll get is a confidential scorecard. Now, we love our scorecards. They get better every year. They look more beautiful every year. They get more interactive. They get more intelligent. And as I said, some of those trend infographics, the modeling that we can do is really improving all the time. Now, it's a voluntary program. We don't charge. It's free to take part. We do ask if you can give us a donation. That's something that we truly appreciate, and that always goes towards the improvement process, and we transparently share that back. But it is voluntary and it's free to take part. And the reason that we do that, is sort of Rhea was alluding to, is it opens the door for more companies, and the more companies that are taking part and on the journey, are light and aware, ready to go, the more Textile Exchange in our mission-driven context is satisfied and feels like we're meeting those needs and getting everybody on that journey. And it also, from a selfish perspective, for companies taking part, it gives you a better benchmark, because a bigger comparison that you're making, the bigger the scale, the more representative that is of the industry, of course. So we're working on that bit all the time, and it gives us a chance to meet new people, welcome them into the community. So the hub is available to all members or not members. We do have benefits for members, of course, and one is our advanced scorecard. So whilst everybody gets the standard scorecard, I'm going to talk about the advanced on the next slide. But before I move over to that slide, I do want to mention what we call the premium scorecard, which is not really a scorecard in itself. It's a build. So you either get the standard scorecard or the advanced scorecard, depending on your Textile Exchange membership level, and and you can build on either the standard or the advanced to have a premium. And what that is a customized service that we provide depending on your needs, and that could be anything from a deeper dive into a particular fiber, an analysis and recommendations where your biggest gaps and opportunities are. It's a workshop with your team. It could be a presentation to your board. It's really, really up to you and how we can be most helpful here. So this is a consulting service. We think it's important to say we can offer that to you should you be interested. But this gives you a little, these are screenshots, of course, but you can now go onto our website, the MCI website, and actually link in and see what we call a sector scorecard, which is similar. It's not exactly the same, but it's driven by the same technology, and that obviously won't give individual brand results, but will give those aggregated subsector and sector results. This is a mock-up. You might see sort of some names and things that look familiar, but everything here is patched together. And this is where you can see the different styles of information that we provide. So the blue bars are the company's they're quite small, but year-on-year improvements. And that's one channel of performance improvement, is how did you do this year compared to the year before. And in the light blue in this case is the company's subsector. So as I was saying, there's different peer groups that we benchmark you against. You will select the subsector that you belong to, whether it's home textiles or sports and outdoor or apparel and footwear. There's 5, I think, different subsectors. And then the gray bar is the overall aggregate average. So that's every company in the program. So you can get a real yardstick on whether you're way out in front, in about the middle, or needing to do a bit more work, and that can prompt those conversations. And the bars, the colorful bars, are the breakdown of materials that a company is using, depending on how they've reported through that material balance sheet. And you can see the trend in overall material use and what the big priority materials are. And then the bar chart on the right will show you that year-on-year progress to preferred, where we aggregate all your preferred volumes and all your conventional volumes and track that for you. That's done at a confidential level. And then the screenshots below that is some of the more advanced infographics that we provide, or modeling that we provide around target setting, impacts and outcomes. We now include a carbon intensity and a carbon absolute overall tracker, so that you can see per kilogram or metric ton of product what that carbon intensity is, and some exciting new infographics and modeling that, as I said, sort of gets better all the time. And the other, so that's your scorecard. And then, of course, from our side, we're absolutely delighted to be able to pull all that data together, name and fame, as we said right back at the start, through our material change leaderboard. If there's 200 or 300 companies on this list, it sounds a lot in some ways, but if you consider the industry, these are the raised tip of the spear. These are the ones leading the charge. Arguably, it's not fully representative of the entire industry because not the entire industry is able to report yet or engaged on reporting. So the more scale we get, the more representative it is, but we certainly love to promote and celebrate the MCI leaders. And we have our dashboard, which hopefully you've had a chance to look at these online. These are all, if you like, a family of tools where they all show slightly different ways of looking at the data. So the impact data board dashboard takes you through it material by material to look at some of those volumes, trends that we're looking at a company level in a very visual form at the cohort level and at each fiber type. And then the sector scorecard that I mentioned earlier, where you can get a sense of what does the overall sector scorecard look like. So these are all in the public domain, along with our lovely new insights report. And the other thing we provide you as participants is the way to celebrate the program and your participation through your own media channels, your sustainability impact reports or annual reports, signature, whatever way you like to use a merit badge. We have, as you can see, the black and white badges down the bottom. We think they're even nicer than the B Corp badges, but you know, just joking. But yeah, I think it's a way to show we're part of a club, we're up for this, we're being transparent, we're making progress. We think it's a nice way, if it suits you as a company, to promote the program and your participation. And then the lovely infographics, which for anyone that's known us a while, you can see that we've rebranded and using some really wonderful, spectacular imagery and messaging to promote what we're doing, really to build that community, to give us all that reward, because we are all working incredibly hard, and this is an important mission in so many ways. So the more we can celebrate the progress we make, as well as be up for the next step of the journey, I think is really key right now. Right, I'm going to hand this back to one of my colleagues, and I'm going to look at the Q&A box really hard and wish some questions in there for us. And look at the time as well. We've got a little bit of time, so please do send your questions in, and over to you, Prina.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. And thank you for listening in and for your patience today. We know it's a lot of information, but we are sharing this recording, as Rose mentioned, and all of this information is from our guides and methodologies, etc. And we are here to support you, so feel free to reach out. Before we open the floor for Q&A with the audience, here are some top tips or call to action from today. Webinar. To get started, please register if you haven't already. Log back into the secure portal, CFMB portal right there. And we invite and encourage you to join our hub community of companies creating material change, as it is called. And this will help you stay updated on all announcements, news, and resources related to the benchmark program. Once again, do check out our suite of guides, as Madeline took us through, to find complete guidance and information about our survey, methodologies, and more. We will be running our popular weekly drop-in clinics throughout July and August. So join us in the safe space on Thursdays to ask your questions, share your experience, or to provide your valuable feedback with us. We would love to host you. In the next slide, once again, I extend my thanks to the corporate benchmarking team here at Textile Exchange, who is working tirelessly behind the scenes to support you in your journey. I know all of my colleagues are here in this session today, so a big shout out to everybody. Thank you, everyone. And once again, thank you, everyone, for your time today. I will open the floor for Q&A now and pass it over to you, Lisa.
Thank you, Prina. And I think the first question has come through from Callie, and it's actually a really popular question. I think we've had this in most of our workshops. So thank you for bringing this one up, Callie. The question is about the length both in number of questions and approximate time to gather data and submit answers. So I'm going to talk about that, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about how, not necessarily how it compares to the HIG BRM, but certainly the relationship we have with the HIG BRM. So I think the big message that we've put forward is that, I'm going to stop sharing the screen, is that it is a flexible benchmarking program. So let's just say if we look at the minimum requirements, if you've signed up to one of the challenges, that would require literally putting the volumes of polyester that you've used over the previous 12 months into the materials balance sheet and sending that off to us. And once again, depending on how easy that is, or what systems you have in place already to collect that data, that may be grabbing a file from a colleague, or it might require a little bit of work in pulling those numbers together and getting that data in. And then that would, the other sort of factor to consider is if it's your first time and you are taking on the material change index, you'll be collecting that data for the first time. You'll be building that team. You'll be getting those links and evidence into the system. So you'll be literally building the foundations of your program. And I do recommend that, if you can, is to use that as the journey, not just the destination of submitting the survey, but to really build your team, to look at who needs to be part of that collaborative effort, who holds what data, who's going to be coordinating it and getting it into the tech platform, who's going to be providing the evidence, who do you want to incorporate into that whole process. And then it will be so much easier, not only to have that team built the first year, but then when you open the survey up next year, you'll see those pre-filling will be in there. And if things haven't changed from one year to another, and strategies don't always change every year, or leadership doesn't change every year, it's a simple matter of clicking the refresh button, and that will remain the same. And that has a knock-on effect for us and the review process, where if nothing changes for you and we've passed you through that first hoop the first year, we don't have to come back and ask you about that again and again and again. So there is some efficiencies, but there is a bit of hard work at the start. We would say, and this is really hard to kind of put one number on, but probably to allow up to 5 working days over the 12 weeks that I think we have set aside, would be what some companies would say. And once again, it will depend on where you're at, how many fibers you're reporting on, how big your team is, what policies you already have in place. And then just to kind of reiterate the gift that it gives you in terms of, we don't have a policy on this. Should we have one? We haven't actually got somebody that's looking at this, that, and the other, or we haven't got a risk register. So there's all the opportunities to really regroup as a company. And I can see Lorraine's got her hand up, so I'm going to pass it over. But that regrouping around how to improve your strategy and build more robustness in. But Lorraine, I'm going to pass it to you. What would you say to that?
Yeah, I would just say I've been having some conversations with some new members, and I would say it's also not an all or nothing, kind of thing, that if you just, get started and do one program, one fiber, get in the system, that it doesn't have to be, all or nothing. I would just encourage you to take that first step and get your corporation information in, what's going on, and then pick a program, pick a fiber, and because that does kind of help get the system, whet the appetite, get you an understanding of what the system looks like. So don't feel like it has to be all or nothing, especially if this is your first year.
No, thanks, Lorraine. That's absolutely right. We're also, you don't have to go into the leaderboard the first year. We've had some companies that have have been really cautious about getting started and, signing the NDA. We have NDAs there. You can use that. We're scrupulous with your data because we know our entire program depends on that security of your data. I don't think anywhere else on the planet collects so much volumetric data around so many different programs as our program does. So we've got a very heightened awareness of how important it is to be careful with your data. And I must say that any company that has started off in that NDA, almost sort of shadow benchmarking space, has come through into the leaderboard, have talked about it in their insights report, and really embraced that confidence building, and it reaps the benefits out the other end. So we never push too hard because we know there's a pace that a company needs to travel at that suits them. And as I said, we've been delighted to see how the rush out the other end when that security's been set amongst the company and leaders within the company on what this is all about. So really up to you. On the BRM side, I'm glad you raised that. I'm not going to exactly answer the question on comparing, but you might have remembered way back at the start of the presentation where we showed the Fashion Pact. Now that relationship is special in as much as we've literally taken on the reporting for the Fashion Pact, and we've got that symbiotic relationship where we hand it back and that goes into their system. With the Sustainable Apparel Coalition, where we know many of our members overlap, we are looking at being, because we are, the deep dive expert on Tier 4 raw materials, and the BRM does this sort of, if you like, horizontal end-to-end look across the operations within a company. So what our ambition is, and it won't be this year, but we're really hoping it'll be 2023, is that if you are doing the BRM and the MCI, you will only have to answer material related questions once. It's probably going to be with us, and then depending on the technology, but at a minimum, we'll be able to share the data that will correspond with what the BRM needs in that component of their program. So you'll be able to get the best of both worlds. You'll be able to answer those questions once, and you will look at how to, and obviously we won't be doing any of that in a darkened room in isolation. It will be very much in a participatory manner with the companies that are reporting to both. But we're one of our key priorities going forward is minimizing redundant data duplication. We really want to stamp that out, and that feels like a huge opportunity to do it. And for those that are involved with the BRM, we'll know that Maravea and Jeremy and co are going through a similar 2-year transition. I didn't mention that at the start, so I meant, so what I'm saying is that we're going through a very similar transition with our Climate Plus alignment, where we're stretching our goals, stretching out some of our framework. What we've shown you today is a partial, is the first step of that shift. And what we certainly don't want to do, and it comes back to what we were talking about just before, is we don't want to hit anybody with a completely clean slate. For newcomers, it will feel quite like a new slate, but for the rest that are coming on this journey with us, we'll know that the benchmarks should never start completely fresh. They should build, refine, tweak, and every so often put in a big build or a big root and branch change. And that's what we'll be doing by 2023, but sort of lightening the blow by having some of the changes implemented this year. I spoke for a really long time, and I thought within that time we might get another question pop into the Q&A, but I'm not seeing one yet. Did that answer your question, Callie? Is that all right? You can raise your hand, you can come on off mute and speak if there's anything that people would like to bring into the room. We are running a little bit ahead of the time that we allocated. We can also, also obviously give people back some time. Great, Kelly. I'm pleased that was helpful. Thanks. Well, I don't want to hold you back from the rest of your day if you feel that we have done our job. So Prina and Madeline have come on. Have anything riveting that we should say before we say goodbye? You're on mute, Prina, if you're speaking.
No, I wasn't, but I was just saying, like, get started on this journey. We are here to support you, and join the hub. Even the initial discussions are going to help you. And yeah, very keen to support. Our team is super eager to support you. So yeah, that's from me.
Great. And Lorraine, thank you so much for joining us today. It means a lot to have your vision and strategic eye here. I know everybody will have benefited from hearing your view and having you in person.
It's exciting to see the growth and the development of this program, evolving over the years of Textile Exchange is celebrating our 20th anniversary this year. So I'll put a plug in to come to the conference and join the celebration. That's the week of November the 15th. But it's really exciting to see how this evolves and becomes a tool for really helping the direction of the program. And I think, Liesl, you said we're over 300 participants for 21. I'm trying to scare Liesl to death and drum up. We want 500 participants in the corporate fiber benchmark program. So I've been calling a lot of our members that aren't participating and some new folks. So hoping to put the pressure on Liesl and the team. They can handle it. And we, if we're going to hit the targets that we need to hit for 2030, we're going to have to get more of the industry involved in engaging and a preferred fiber material strategy. So we definitely want to be here to help you on that journey. And I've attended some of the call-ins. They're very helpful. And it's like you bring the question or the whatever's going on with you. So yeah, the team is here to be helpful.
Yeah, and you raised a good point, Lorraine. Through COVID, which we were expecting, and we do know was very disruptive to so many companies, but the doubling down, so to speak, on that commitment to preferred and kind of that connection and even that tension of seeing how change is happening all the time, but the need to get really strong and resilient around preferred materials was when we've written about this in the insights report for those that want to have a look at what we discovered through companies' experiences and responses to those questions.
Yeah, it's been kind of interesting. It's also interesting too, because there's a lot of public commitments that brands and retailers are making in regards to science-based targets. And so having, the mechanism for collecting this data and the ability to convert this, we've got Beth Jensen and Lainey working on, more conversions. We're doing more primary data collection and some more LCAs in order to really give value to helping the industry, really have the conversation and the matrices and the conversion equations in order to help everyone be able to report out. It's one set of numbers, take it through the formulas, and then it helps you whether you've signed the climate charter or whether you've signed science-based targets or whatever the case may be. So we're working collaboratively with all of those groups and happy to help on this space and place.
That's a great place to
Indeed.
end on. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you to our speakers, and thank you for participating in today's webinar. As a friendly reminder, an email will be sent to all registered participants with a link to today's presentation. Also, be sure to go to the hub to continue the discussion and asking of questions. That concludes our webinar. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.